I'm an Indian Muslim. What do I have to do with him? And you read the Babur Nama, you can make out he hated India. Right? The only reason he came here is because India was the wealthiest land on earth and he wanted our money. That's it. He hated India. He hated Indians. Indian Hindus or Muslims, he hated all of us. Issue of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple is not a Hindu-Muslim issue. It's an Indian foreigner issue. There's a foreigner who came and broke our... and this is the heritage of all Indians. It's such a beautiful way.
Do you feel that Shiva as a character is something that you have, created for your books in terms of the way Shiva is depicted in the modern times? Because Shiva and the way people have written and read about Shiva is not the way you have been writing about it.
There are many stories in there which show Lord Shiva as a normal human being. Like there's a story in folk traditions of Lord Shiva coming as a fisherman to the region of Kerala. Lord Shiva is Aadi and Ananta. There is no beginning, there is no end, right? So you can't fit him into this beginning, middle, end storytelling structure. I'm a very proud Hindu. I used to say it even in 2010 when it wasn't so fashionable, okay? But that doesn't mean I hate other religions. Doesn't mean, in fact, it means I respect other religions as well. I respect the gods and goddesses of other religions as well. And I expect that and vice versa.
Hello and welcome to the SapnaRise podcast. I'm your host Nijesh Shah, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel so you never miss powerful conversations with the voices shaping our world of books. At SapnaRise, our mission is simple yet profound: to inspire a nation through the power of storytelling and the written word. We believe that every story has the potential to ignite change, spark innovation, and build a better future. And this is a place where we bring you closer to the stories, insights, and wisdom of some of the most distinguished authors and thought leaders. Today, I'm truly excited to bring on a guest who needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have in the house the absolutely enigmatic and the brilliant Amish Tripathi. Widely hailed as India's literary pop star, Amish has transformed the way we read and connect with our ancient stories. From the record-breaking Shiva Trilogy to the much-acclaimed Ram Mandir series, and now his historical fiction works in the Indic Chronicles, his books have sold over 8 million copies and sparked a reading movement across the globe. But Amish's work goes far beyond his writing. He's also a diplomat, a cultural ambassador, and a successful podcaster himself, hosting the Amish Tripathi Show, where he gets others to share their journeys. But today, the tables have turned. This time, Amish isn't the one asking the questions. He's the one in the hot seat. So without further ado, in this episode, we'll explore his brand new book, The Chola Tigers, Avengers of Somnath. His thoughts on blending history with storytelling and the larger cultural mission that drives his work. So sit back, subscribe, and join me for this unmissable conversation with one of India's most inspiring and personally my favorite storyteller, Amish Tripathi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amish, for joining us today at the SapnaRise podcast. To be very honest with you, I'm a fan of yours, a fan of your reading, not because you're in front of me, because the Shiva Trilogy, till date, has left such a big impact on the way I look at mythology, the way I look at reading as an entire journey. So Amish, before we get to the Chola Tigers, I've been a lifelong reader of your books, and I still remember when the Oath of Vayaputras came out, the third book of the Shiva Trilogy. It was for me like an Harry Potter moment, because I was so looking forward to what would happen in the third book. And I remember coming back to my own bookstore before the embargo date of your books would release and locking myself up in the cabin, getting that first book and reading for 5 to 6 hours straight up. And it was an amazing journey for me, very emotional, because in that book, Sati unfortunately had to be killed. And so it just amazes me, from that book to your Ramchandra series to even your Indie Chronicles, how you're able to, connect the dots between the first book to your second and to your third, because it takes time for you to release your second and third book. And when you write your first, amazingly, you're able to put in certain elements which is disclosed in your subsequent books in the third or second. So to just open the context of, how you write, the journey and the process of your writing, how do you connect the dots between your first, second, third, and in Ramchandra, you had your fourth book.
Across series as well.
Across series as well.
Ramchandra series can be read as a 1500-year prequel to the events of the Shiva Trilogy.
Right.
That's one of the ways to read it. So there are clues that were left in Oath of the Vayuputras in Shiva Trilogy, which will get tied up in the fifth book of the Ramchandra series, which I have to
Right.
Okay. And even the book Suhail Dev and Chola Tigers, they're also linked to each other. I left a clue within Suhail Dev for the Chola Tigers and vice versa. There are clues for other books as well.
Right.
The prophecy that is made at the end of the Chola Tigers is also a clue for various books that will come. And I wish I could give a nice, strategic sounding answer. Can plan it all? There's this massive Excel file at home, and one full wall has this, interconnected, PERT chart and flow chart, and somehow it all. Actually, there's nothing like that. It genuinely is. I know some people find it strange when I say it. I don't care. It's the truth. I genuinely believe it's the blessings of Lord Shiva.
Wow.
Because I cannot explain it. There is no Excel file. There is no wall with a flow chart and PERT chart connecting all the plot points. There is nothing. There is, of course, and J.K. Rowling, there's that very famous sheet of hers.
Right, yes. Which has
many
all the characters and
have read and how they all connect.
Yeah.
I have nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's all just in here.
Wow.
And, I'm like, I was writing Secret of the Nagas, and I just knew that this incident has to happen. Why? I had no idea. It just has to happen. Like the 4 Gurukul names of the 4 brothers, Lord Ram, Lord Bharat, Lord Lakshman, and Lord Shatrughan, they are not random. Okay. When the 5th book is released, and when you connect it back to the Shiva Trilogy as well, the Gurukul name of goddess Sita is not random. Okay. I couldn't have planned this when I was writing Shiva Trilogy. I have no idea. It just comes.
It's like a divine
and somehow it just ties up, man.
So you feel that it's a blessing by Lord Shiva. And when you
there's no other explanation. How can an author plan something like this over 15 years, over not just different books in a series, but different series themselves? It's not possible. So if anyone believes this, listen, man, I have a bridge to send them. I did not plan this. It somehow just connects. I have no idea how. It just connects.
Wow. Because when we talk about Shiva as a character, one is Lord Shiva, the divine, the Mahadev, the god of gods. And when you introduce Shiva as a character across your books, right? You have Shiva as your main character across, specifically in the first series, and we talk about the Indie Chronicles now. So do you feel that Shiva as a character is something that you have, created for your books in terms of the way Shiva is depicted in the modern times? Or you feel that this also is, because Shiva and the way people have written and read about Shiva is not the way you have been writing about it?
No, but see, the thing with Lord Shiva, if you read through the Shaivite Puranas, and there are many of them, Shiva Purana, Linga Purana, Skanda Purana. Skanda Purana is probably the longest of the Puranas. Of the Mahapuranas, as you know, 8 are the Shaivite Puranas. But there are many stories in there which are contradictory. There are many stories in there which show Lord Shiva as a normal human being. Like there's a story in folk traditions of Lord Shiva coming as a fisherman to the region of Kerala, for example. There's a story in Varanasi that goddess Parvati had got angry with him and had left him. and was living in Varanasi in Kashi as Annapurna ji, essentially helping people with free food. And he came, Lord Shiva, he was missing her, came to manau her in a way, and came as a mendicant, right? So there are various stories like this of Lord Shiva. And the thing with Lord Shiva, unlike, say, the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, which is in a traditional storytelling format, there's a beginning, middle, and end, right?
Yeah.
So Lord Ram is born, then he does his karma, and then he takes Jal Samadhi, as you know. Right? Or Lord Krishna is born, does his karma, and then he's shot by that arrow.
Correct.
Right? On the toe, as we all know.
Yes.
So there's a beginning, middle, end, which is at least in the modern way, it's a traditional story structure. But Lord Shiva is Anadi and Ananta. There's no beginning, there is no end. Right? So you can't fit him into this beginning, middle, end storytelling structure. You just have to kind of pick incidents from his life, which has no beginning, which has no end, right? And then convert that into stories. That's how anyone who wants to write on Lord Shiva has to do it. That's the only choice, because unlike the other stories, he has no beginning, no end. It's Anadi and Anant.
Very beautifully said, because when we talk about mythology and second, when we talk about history, there's a very thin line between the way one could read mythology versus one is reading history. Because Ramayana is taught to us in the form of a history chapter. But in fact, it is mythology, because the story of Ramayana, in fact, has many different versions also. So when you do your entire process of research, how do you know that this approach or this story is something that you feel is the most apt for you to write in your books or to bring about in your books?
Well, on this, Nijesh, this thing that history has just one version,
Right.
and that is the truth, is Western conceit, actually. It's not really true in their versions of history as well. Their own ancient history books, which they quote as the traditional things that have to be followed, have many fantastical things in there. Their Greek history books, when they're describing India, speak of elephants having ears which are like wings, which they can fly. Not really true, right? They have a lot of fantastical stuff. They have a lot of versions of history as well. If the Carthaginian versions of history had survived, Rome would be portrayed very negatively. But because only the Roman versions have survived, we see it as positive. The British and the Americans and the Western Europeans think of Greco-Roman culture as their ancestors, which is nonsense, because the British, US and Western Europeans are largely of Germanic descent. Anglo-Saxons, yeah? Where did the Angles and the Saxons come from? From Germany. They're of Germanic descent.
Right.
The Germanic people are the ones who destroyed Rome. They're not the Romans. They're the ones who destroyed Rome.
Right.
So how can they? It's like the Turks who destroyed, say, the Zoroastrians in Persia, saying, we are also Zoroastrians. No, bhai, you're not. They're the ones who destroyed them. Or the Arabs who destroyed them.
Or the Buddhists,
for
example.
Yeah, correct. Right? So, you can say even their history is mythology then. Correct. This thing that Western history is history. And all the rest of us, bhai, hum to gade the. Mythology hai. किसी तरह अंग्रेजों ने आके बचा लिया. This is nonsense. This is actually Western colonialism. Right? There are different versions of history in every culture of the world. Indians are mature enough to accept that there are different truths and accept it.
Right.
The Westerners and Middle Easterners can sometimes be childish and say, no, this version is the truth. If you don't believe in this version, you will burn in hell for eternity. That's very childish. Right? So I don't think we should surrender to this colonial argument that our history is mythology. And if you use the term mythology by its original Greek term, which is just a story that hides the philosophical truth, that is okay. Okay, right? But if you use mythology as the modern British rendition of it, that basically it's not really true. No, that I disagree.
Right.
Very
well
because
said.
serious questions can be raised on the European interpretation
Absolutely.
of history as well, right? And we are not saying that their history is mythology. We are not attacking them, but we don't need to accept their attacks on us.
Right.
You have to tell them, boss, get lost.
Right.
Right?
I think very well said. So, which brings me to my next question to understand why you chose to move from, I wouldn't say move, but why you chose from mythology to history. Like, because when you had your Shiva Trilogy, you have your...
It was in the time of the Itihasas.
And now you're talking about Suhail there, which was unknown to many of us, including the Chola, the Rajendra Chola in your Chola Tigers. Though a little bit more was written about the Chola dynasty compared to Suhail Dev, but you moved from history
To the relatively recent past.
to history. Why this shift? What made you? What inspired you?
My books, as you know, are always driven by some philosophical concepts that I want to convey.
Right.
And the story is essentially a wrapper, okay, for those philosophical concepts. So the Shiva Trilogy, Ramchandra series have their own, like the Shiva Trilogy is an exploration of what is evil.
Right.
Ramchandra series is an exploration of what is an ideal society, what is Ram Rajya.
Right.
And the stories are wrapper. Right? And in Shiva Trilogy, the stories are wrapper to convey that philosophy. My Indic Chronicles, of which Legend of Suhail Dev and the Chola Tigers are the first two books, there will be many more books in this, is an exploration of the last 1300 years.
Okay.
Since when the invasions began.
Okay.
First of which was on Sindh by the Arabs. There is a narrative that has been sold to us Indians by the British, and regrettably our establishment historians continued with the British paradigm even post 1947.
Okay.
The British had a selfish reason to do it. I don't know why our historians continued, right? With it. Now, what are the, if I have to simplify, what are the broad narratives that has been sold to us over the last 1300 years? That one, apparently anything important happened only around Delhi.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate.
In the last 1300 years, anything of note was basically between Khyber Pass and Agra. Okay. The rest of us don't really matter, apparently. Right? South India at least had a few chapters meanwhile in the South.
Right.
If you remember, at least in the history books when I was studying, the title was actually this, Meanwhile in the South. Okay. Which if you think is damn insulting. Right? But at least the South got a meanwhile in the South. East India, Central India, Western India, didn't even get that.
Right.
There's no meanwhile also. Like they just don't exist. Right? No, where's Northeast covered? Where are the great Palas of Bengal covered? The Ghadakwa, and I'm from Eastern UP. Our empires are not. King Bhoj, Parmars, among the greatest empires not covered. Gurjar Pratihara, Solankis, the Sindhi dynasties of King Dar, they're all just Karkotaks, all wiped out. They don't exist only. Why? Because they didn't rule Delhi. Okay. So this has to be balanced, first of all. Okay. Delhi is a very important city. Don't get me wrong. It's a very important region of India. But it's not the only important region. There are many other important regions as well. That's the first thing that has to be balanced. Second thing that has to be balanced is the bigger issue. Is that the last 1300 years is presented as a story of repeated defeats. Okay? That all we were doing is waiting for the next invader to come, where there will be a battle at Panipat, which of course we'll lose, and then our next set of oppressors have arrived. Okay? The difference between the Turks who invaded us from the north, northwest, and from the steppelands and of Central Asia, and the British is that the British came from the sea. That's all. But basically, we are a people who are supposed to be oppressed. In a way, that's the message, the hidden message given to us. An obvious question that had occurred to me when I was in school. If we are losing every battle, how the hell are we still alive? We should be dead, no?
Yeah, logically, you're right. Absolutely.
Every other ancient culture where these same invaders went, by the way. And another minor point which I forgot, if the British colonial rule is not called the Christian rule, why is the Turkic colonial rule called Islamic rule? Right?
If everything is
there's a very, if you ask me, very mischievous attempt to divide Hindus and Muslims.
Right.
When actually it was an Indian foreigner issue, not a Hindu-Muslim issue. Okay? It's very mischievously done. It was done by the British, and one can get why they wanted to do it. Why the hell did our historians continue with it? Our establishment historians, post 1947.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you actually see my understanding, my interpretation of our history is the actual opposite. Right? Because, and same set of facts, but my interpretation is opposite. Because if you see these invaders, the Turks, Persians, Arabs, Portuguese, British, French, Dutch, they went to practically every ancient culture in the world. They invaded every ancient culture.
Yes.
All those ancient cultures are all dead.
Right.
Okay? India is the only pre-Bronze Age culture that is still alive. Is Zoroastrian Persia, is it alive? No, they survive here. Central American, Aztec Incas, all dead. Coptic Christians barely surviving in Egypt, but Pharaonic Egyptians, so long gone.
Right.
Okay? All these cultures, even in Europe, Celts, all dead. We are still standing after 1300 years of invasions, which means that, yes, we lost some battles, we won many battles as well. And even more importantly, the real story of the last 1300 years is this is the greatest resistance in human history. The greatest resistance by any indigenous people anywhere in the world. All the other indigenous peoples, Zoroastrian Persians, Pharaonic Egyptians, Incas, Mayans, all of them, they lost and they surrendered and they died out. Our ancestors kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. 1300 bloody years, man. It is the greatest resistance in human history. This is where all these invaders who have destroyed every other ancient culture in the world carried out genocides which are unparalleled. They couldn't defeat us. So the story of the last 1300 years, the way I see it, our ancestors were not cowardly. They were the toughest buggers around. We should be proud. And that is how we should see our history. It is the greatest resistance in human history by any indigenous group. And no one has, our culture didn't survive because of anyone's charity. Our ancestors fought damn hard for it. And if we don't remember and celebrate their stories, and even more ridiculously, celebrate the stories of those barbaric invaders, what kind of descendants are we? Shame on us. Seriously, shame on us.
Oh, very well said. In fact, goosebumps when you talked about the kind of contribution that our ancestors have done to keep the culture alive. So unfortunately, today, if we look at the way India is progressing, earlier we had the invaders in the form of the Mughals or the Arabs, or you talk about the Portuguese and the Dutch, the Britishers, but the politicians today, right, are in fact still trying to create the fact that Hindu and Muslims and all that, and we as the general public or the emotions of Bharat is kept alive because we're still fighting against our current politicians' ideologies, unfortunately. So I think when you bring about these kind of stories, be it Suhail Dev or be it the Chola Tigers, what is happening is that politicians are using these stories again instead of binding India as a very strong enforcement against the invaders. They are unfortunately using this in the form of polarizing the entire topic of, Hindus and Muslims and all of that. So why is this happening?
You make a good point. Let me answer this firstly from the perspective of my books, then second from the perspective of politicians. Firstly, on my books, I clearly show unity all the time, right? So, Legend of Suhail Dev, which I'm sure you must have read, has Hindus of all castes, Buddhists and Indian Muslims joining together to fight the foreigners, right? The foreign Turkic Ghaznavid army. The Chola Tigers has people from across India, from Tamil Nadu, of course, because Emperor Rajendra Chola orders this assassination squad, but also King Bhojdev, Emperor Bhojdev of Malwa, or what is Rajasthan MP, Chhattisgarh today, who was an ally, historically, he was an ally of Emperor Rajendra Chola. There are Gujaratis, Bengalis, Kashmiris, all in this group. There are men and women in this group, Hindus and Muslims in this group. So at least in my books, I try and put forward that unity. Because if there's one thing we can learn from our ancestors, of course they were brave. But one mistake that they made was they were disunited. They were divided. Often the foreigners didn't have to defeat us, we would defeat ourselves.
A lot of infighting amongst our own rulers.
Infighting. Let's see, many of our major battles, frankly, we lost because of infighting.
Right.
Not because the foreigners were braver.
Right.
Many of the battles of Panipat, of so many. Yes, across. I mean, you just have to read our history.
Yes.
So there's one lesson that we should draw is we should be united. I put a line in this book, which is a line that comes from my native UP. My father's family is from UP. That Kauravs और पांडव 5, तीजा आए तो 105. The Kauravs may be 100 and the Pandavas may be 5. If an outsider comes, we're 105. We must have that attitude that we are 105. Our internal fights will continue. We are an argumentative lot. That will happen. But like in Ireland, there are many Indians being attacked.
Yes,
right? In Ireland, you know that.
Right.
Yeah. You think when they are attacked, part of the reason, what I discovered, because I know diplomats and others out there, part of the reason is they have some fight with the Pakistanis and they can't differentiate between the Pakistanis and India. Look, I'm not defending the Pakistanis. They do too many crimes wherever they go, but Indians don't, right? But you think when these Irish are attacking, you think that, are you a Kannadic? Are you a Tamilian? Are you a Gujarati? Are you a Bengali? Are you a Kashmiri? You think they're checking that? Or they're just hitting you because you look Indian, right? They do not differentiate between us.
Very well said.
We must have that attitude of 105.
Yes.
Internal battles will continue. That's okay. Arguments will continue. Not against foreigners. Never pick the side of a foreigner against a fellow Indian. Doesn't matter where that Indian is from. Now the point of the politicians. I think it's very easy for us to blame Indian politicians.
Okay.
I actually have a lot of respect for Indian politicians. Because managing our country is not easy. Let's be honest. We are very difficult people. Okay. For most of us, can we manage even our housing societies or our clubs? And politicians have to manage. We are so argumentative. लड़ते रहते हैं यार हम लोग. We never decide. We can never agree on anything. And if the politicians are doing something, it's because they're getting votes from it.
Right.
So who's the fault with? Is it with the politicians or with us? If we vote on issues like this, okay, then the politicians will do what? Will get them votes. It's our fault. We can't blame them. Right? So we have to look at ourselves and not divide ourselves on this issue. What do I mean by that? I'm a very proud Hindu. I used to say it even in 2010 when it wasn't so fashionable. Okay? But that doesn't mean I hate other religions. In fact, it means I respect other religions as well. I respect the gods and goddesses of other religions as well. And I expect that and vice versa. Right? I have my own language. That doesn't mean I disrespect other languages.
Right.
I should respect other languages as well. I come from I'm lucky that I've lived in various different parts of India. My father's family is from UP, mother's family is from MP. I was born in Mumbai, studied in Tamil Nadu and in Odisha, did my MBA in Calcutta. So I've kind of been all over. But many of us may have not. And of course, we must love our state and our local culture. That doesn't mean we have to hate another state. Just because you love something doesn't mean you have to hate something else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That balance we should have. If we keep that culture, politicians will then argue on something else, on economic policies. Because they will do what gets them votes, no?
Correct.
I would much rather that they argue and fight on economic policies than on issues like this. And the fault, let's be honest, is ours, not of the politicians. We shouldn't vote on these issues. We shouldn't get internally divided on these issues.
Oh, very well said. And I hope that the larger section of our readers and audiences really look at this as a message in whatever little or big way they can contribute towards making the right votes count. Coming to the book, The Chola Tigers, I've got the chance to read it, and it's a very fast-paced book, I must admit. And I like the fact that you have 5 characters, that you've involved in different. You have the Gujarati merchant, you have your Ayyappa devotee, you have the Tamil warrior, you have the Malwa scholar, and of course you have Rajendra Chola, the greatest warrior in the 11th century. You start off the book talking between the Persians and the Turks, the way the leadership of Khwaja Hassan, who's the Sultan's prime minister, and the Turkic ruler Muhammad Ghazni. So just from a historic point of view, how different are Persians and Turks? And Turks are also Persianized in the way you have mentioned in the book.
So look, the three primary, if you can call it, elite groups among Muslim empires, Islamic empires, were the Arabs, the Turks, and the Persians.
Okay.
Right? The Arabs were the original Muslims, of course. And I would argue in many ways, Abbasid Arab Islamdom, which was headquartered in Baghdad, was actually in many ways the high point of Islamic culture. Finest educators, culture, everything it was. And they ruled from Spain to Iran at that time. And relatively liberal, the Abbasids were. They were relatively liberal. There were many Indian scientists, by the way, in Baghdad at that time. They studied many Indian texts and actually gave, unlike Westerners who copied many Indian texts in the 16th, 17th century and did not give credit, the Arabs always gave credit that we learned this from the Indians. So algebra, for example, is credited to Al-Khwarizm, right? Was also there during the time of the Abbasids, from what I recall. But in his book, he did not plagiarize. He said, Kitab al-Hisab al-Hindi, the book of the mathematics of the Hindis, of the Hindus, right? So he did not plagiarize. They actually gave credit. But the Abbasid Caliphate was destroyed by Central Asian invaders, same people who came here, Mongols and Turks. And the Turks were the slave soldiers earlier of the Mongols, which is why in many parts of the world, the first Turkic dynasties are called the slave dynasties. Because, like in India as well, because the slaves rebelled against their masters and became rulers themselves. So the Turks were essentially just great warriors, right? Arabs were the original Muslims. The Persians were the sophisticated. I'm simplifying.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Drastically, right? Very, very drastically. And the Persians were great administrators because they were the most ancient of these Middle Eastern cultures. Great administrators, great poets, so which is why you find even in the Abbasid Caliphate, many of the administrators were Persians. Even in the Turkic rule, many of the administrators were Persians, right? But the Turks were always, they were the superpower of their time. They were the fiercest warriors the world has ever seen, ever. So, if your viewers, have read Game of Thrones or seen the series, the Dothrakis are largely based on the Turks.
Absolutely.
Right? They're like, killers like the world has never. They did nothing besides just train for the fine art of killing. That's why they needed others to do their administration, right? So this is the way these three kind of primary elite groups interacted with each other. They were Persian warriors as well, don't get me wrong. They were, but I'm just kind of simplifying. And yes, many of the great, from the 11th, 12th century onwards, all the greatest empires, Ottomans, Delhi Sultans, the Timurid Mughals, who we call the Mughals, actually they were Timurid. Timur was a Turk. They were all Turkic.
But the Turks are not necessarily from Turkey, right?
No.
That's a big
that's a big myth.
Right.
Because Turkey was originally Hellenic. It was Greece.
Right.
All these Turks, Mongols, Scythians, Huns, who we used to call Vunas,
right?
These are all from the steppe lands of Central Asia.
Right.
The steppe lands extend from Hungary in Europe all across Central Asia up to the east of China, right up to the sea, Manchuria. This is all steppe lands. They're grasslands spread thousands of kilometers. Lots of horses out there. Nomadic culture and the greatest warriors in the world, right? Mongols, Turks, all of them, they came from there. All these invaders actually came from those regions, right? So what became Turkey is essentially when the Turks conquered the Hellenic people, quite frankly, killed many of the men, took over the women, and then made it Turkey. That's what actually happened.
Wow. And you also start off the book with the devotion that Somnath ji has towards Lord Shiva. And I would like to just, talk about a particular page which really touched me and which is there across many of your books. But a question around that is that, when the Muhammad Ghazni, he destroys the Shiva Linga, and Somnath ji is still, devoted, and he's asking the Lord as to know why is he testing me. The Lord tests us all. He wants us to pass through the sieve of these terrible times and separate the resolute believers from the hypocrites and the opportunists. So the question over here is that the kind of faith that you're able to show, the emotion able to show towards Lord Shiva, how is it possible when the entire city is under destruction, when the people have lost absolute faith towards what's happening? So how do you bring this emotion, and how is it testifying the faith that a common man should have towards the Mahadev when a very difficult
These are the words of the character Someshwar,
right,
who's a Gujarati merchant,
right,
who then drives,
right,
goes to Emperor Rajendra Chola to appeal,
right,
for this assassination squad,
right.
But this is only a story. We've seen it in real life. In the last 1300 years, we've been attacked repeatedly, but we did not surrender our culture.
Right.
Many other countries did. Many of the Zoroastrians, converted and then destroyed their own fire temples in Iran.
Right.
This is just one example. There are many examples like this. The Greek pagans converted and destroyed their own temples. So it's not just in the words may be fictional,
right,
but the philosophy behind it is not, because we've seen it in real life in the last 1300 years. If all of us are following our ancient way, it's because we're all descended from ancestors who refused to surrender. That's what we are. We carry the blood of those brave men and women who refused to surrender. If you see in North India, find none of our... to see really ancient temples, you have to come to South India.
Absolutely.
North India, they're all destroyed. You can see the ruins. You can't see the original temples. You can see the ruins of the Maurya temples, of the Gupta temples, of the Pala Viharas, but you can't see the original because they're all destroyed, right? Maharashtra northwards. But our culture did not get destroyed. Our faith did not get destroyed.
You think that
It's in real life.
you think that a lot of this also is possible because when an idol is worshipped, you're able to see a form of the deity, right? Unlike in the Islam culture, there is no deity, right? It's all about the Almighty. So to draw again the emotion of how you are characterizing Lord Shiva in the hearts and minds of all your characters, how important is...
So to your point on idols, I won't dwell too much on it because there's a separate entire book on idols that my sister Bhavna Didi and I have written. It's called Idols. It's available at Sapna. Do check it out and read it.
Yes.
But what I will say is all of us human beings need some symbol. Many of us. Yes, the true divine is beyond those symbols. But if you're not ready for it, then you can't understand it. Right? It's like being in love is a very good thing to have. But if you're not ready for it, you can't fall in love.
Right.
And if someone comes and tells you, if you don't fall in love, I'm going to kill you, that will not make you fall in love.
Absolutely.
Right? You may get scared and pretend to be in love. It's the same thing with idols. If someone just comes with this is wrong, and you may get scared and surrender, but it doesn't mean you actually understand the Nirgun Nirakar. Right? Most of us do need a symbol. And if you see in Indian Islam, what are dargahs? They're symbols. Right? When you go and pray at a dargah. In fact, so many Indian Muslims come and pray in Hindu temples. That's what I find that as a beauty of Indian Islam. Right? And this is because all of us need symbols. If symbols don't mean anything, then theoretically you can spit on the picture of your grandfather which is on the wall, no matter what religion you're from.
Yes.
But no, at least no Indian will do it.
Okay.
That I can say 100% guarantee. I think. No Indian will do it.
I'm sure, yes.
Right? It doesn't mean anything. You go, "Arey, that's just a picture. It's not your grandfather, but you can't bring yourself to do it." Because Indians accept the reality that symbols are important for us. But the absence of the symbols doesn't mean that we lose our faith. And you've seen it in history in the last 1,300 years. Just because the Lord Shiva temple in Somnath Ji was destroyed doesn't mean that people out there forgot. Right? Lord Shiva. Many of those invaders, by the way, those Turkic invaders destroyed the dargahs of Muslim Sufis as well. Do you know that? That doesn't mean the Muslim Sufis suddenly just forgot. They rebuilt. Or they continued even in that location without the dargah. Because they used to say these dargahs are also wrong.
Which brings me to a very important fact that you mentioned in the book, the difference between the Indian Islam and the Islam outside of India, because Iqbal, who's accompanying Someshwar ji in his quest to meet.
He's an Indian Muslim, and
So how do you,
with them in this way.
in your research, what type of difference do you find between the Islam that is more?
One is, of course, one can do research and quote text, but it's so much better to just quote an actual human being, a living human being. I made a documentary on Ram Janmabhoomi ji,
Right.
and I interviewed legendary archaeologist K.K. Muhammad Saab, who's a Malayali,
Yes.
one of the finest living archaeologists.
Yes.
And he told me this beautiful line while I was discussing for the documentary with him. He said, Babur was an Uzbek. Okay, I'm an Indian Muslim. What do I have to do with him? And you read the Babur Nama, you can make out he hated India.
Right.
The only reason he came here is because India was the wealthiest land on earth and he wanted our money. That's it. He hated India. He hated Indians. Indian Hindus or Muslims. He hated all of us. He wanted to be buried in his own land, right? When he died, he's saying, "What do I have to do with him? I'm an Indian." And he said so beautifully that the issue of the Ram Janmabhoomi Ji temple is not a Hindu-Muslim issue. It's an Indian foreigner issue. There's a foreigner who came and broke our, and this is the heritage of all Indians. It's such a beautiful way of seeing it.
Oh, very well said. And I think, like you rightly said, it's better to quote somebody rather than look up differences theoretically in terms of the difference between Islam in India and outside. I would like you to talk us through the characters of the book, The Chola Tigers, because like we spoke, it's very distinctive. You've got 5 different characters. So we'll start off with the main character, the Tamil warrior, right? Narsimha is depicted. So can you share with the audience in terms of
Narsimha, hopefully they will close in and show you this is Narsimha, the main warrior. And I wanted a warrior who, when you see on his face, the first thought in your mind is don't mess with this guy.
Right.
Okay? But at the same time, you will also know somehow instinctively that if you're basically not a bad person, this guy will protect you.
Wow.
Okay, he has that kind of feel. And Narsimhan is passing through, like many warriors, that's the nature of war. You end up doing, by mistake, or end up doing things that, if you're actually a decent person, it weighs on you, right? You have that guilt. And then how do you make up for that guilt? That's the story of Narsimhan. This is Someshwar, who's the Gujarati merchant. This is Amal, a Muslim woman who goes along with them to avenge them. And there is Pulakit and Vijay. These are the 5 key, there are others as well, 5 key people in the assassination squad who go to Ghazni to assassinate Mahmud and to get the pieces of the shivling back. Emperor Rajendra Chola ordered the assassination, of course, and Emperor Bhojdev Parmar, his great ally, also supported with his warriors and his spy system in Ghazni.
Right, so fantastically said. So these are the 5 main characters, and you've also portrayed the distinctive differences between some of the characters, specifically in the start when we talk about Vijay and Narsimha, not to disclose more, but they had a very a relationship which was a bit of a tension in terms of, he replacing the city.
Part
police.
their career, part the regions that they come from.
Right.
So those who are deep into Tamil lands would know, okay, there is a difference between the Tamils from the Kaveri region and the Tamils from the Vaigai region, right? The Pandya rulers essentially came from Vaigai, Madurai, and the Cholas were obviously from the Kaveri region. So yes, I refer to this as well. And like I said, these differences are there. That's okay, right? If all of us are exactly the same, then life becomes very boring, right? And India celebrates its diversity and its vibrancy. But if an outsider attacks, 105. We must have that attitude.
Wow. So well. And like I've said before, that because I've got the chance to read the book, I can assure all the readers that this book has the characters very well placed in every aspect of its journey, from the mission that they are part of, the emotions that they carry, the background story that they have with each other, of themselves. So everything is very well connected. And like all your books, you've connected the dots so beautifully well that makes the book so fast paced.
Thank you.
Also would like to, understand how much of history have you taken when you've, drawn your characters, or this is completely fiction?
So this is historical fiction.
Right.
Which is a genre that has been around for centuries, let's be honest. I don't claim this is a non-fiction history book. And look, historical fiction by its very nature has to be based on some historical facts, but you have to make changes to make a good story.
Right.
Because look, real life, there are two differences between real life and fiction. One, real life is frankly quite boring, right? And you can't write a boring fiction book. Yeah. So fiction, it has to be made interesting. Right? Second, actually, if you think about it honestly, often real life makes no sense. Okay. Often the things that happen make no sense, right? But fiction, it has to make sense, because then the reader will say, "Arey, ye kya bol raha hai?" I mean, this character is behaving out of character. We see it in real life very often, right? But in fiction, if it happens, it disturbs you. So you have to make some changes, right? To make it into a good story, right? But you can't make obvious factually wrong things, right? So if I showed Emperor Rajendra Chola sending a squad to kill Aurangzeb, that's wrong.
That's wrong.
Obviously.
Different times.
Yeah.
Right.
So the broad facts are correct. Descriptions of Gangaikonda Chodapuram, Tamil, the Chola Hoysala was, then the Mahmud Ghazni dying at that time, Emperor Rajendra Chola being the most powerful man on earth, all this, Somnathji being destroyed, all this are all broadly factual, right? How I put them together is a story. And this is the nature, like, I mean, S.L. Bhairappa ji, when he writes historical, he puts fiction in it. Ponniyin Selvan, which talks about Chola, the Cholas is parts of it are fiction, right? That's the nature of the genre. So the problem is when some of our historians have written non-fiction books, which they claim are true, but actually you find out it's fictional.
Very well said. And it's so.
Then you have a problem.
Yes, and it so happens.
I make it very clear why it's a fiction book.
Which is you mentioned in the start of your book, which is very categorically mentioned.
It's a fiction book. Please read it.
Right, and you also mentioned that the places and the events are real, but the characters are factual. So I think you've been very clear in the approach towards writing and how people should read it. While we talk about the 5 main characters who are protecting India, I wanted to ask you more about Muhammad Ghazni, the character of Muhammad Ghazni, and also his brother Ismail. They both, despite being brothers...
Ismail did exist. So that's true.
Which is why, if you could throw some more light of, how the relationship between both the brothers
So the fact that Ismail did become the Sultan, right? And the Emir actually at that time, Sultan was later. and that Mahmud deposed him is historically accurate.
Okay.
The fact that Mahmud was exceptionally violent is historically accurate.
You're right.
The fact that Mahmud was a homosexual is historically accurate. It's well known.
So was it accepted by, I mean, just to break into this conversation on
Among the Turks,
sexuality?
it was very common.
Yeah.
Not so much among the Persians and the Arabs, but among the Turks, it was very common.
Right.
Even Babur was a homosexual.
Right.
But and there's nothing wrong with being a homosexual. It's it's freedom.
Right.
The only point was Babur and many of the records on him and in Baburnama, he speaks of his attraction for boys, which I think is wrong. Underage, that is not okay. In fact, one of his longest affairs was with an underage boy. That is wrong, right? And I'm a liberal, but there are lines, right? I mean, no, not with children, right? But I mean, if you're an adult and two consenting adults, it's okay. So all these are historically
Is factual,
accurate.
and this is how it was.
These are all historically accurate. Yeah.
So that's how you've gone about talking about Muhammad Ghazni and brother Ismail, which, like you said, are factual characters which exist.
And obviously their dialogues and all are
Fair
all
enough,
fiction. But the fact that and those broad incidents, yes, they all happened.
Fair enough. And when you talk about your main characters again, a warrior, a sage, the merchant, I would call him an entrepreneur, a ruler. Did you want specifically 5 characters while you were writing, or you thought maybe 3 would have been better, or 6?
It's how they just emerged.
It just came.
Actually. It wasn't really planned in that way. Like I told you, I mean, often with my stories, I have the broad philosophy that I want to convey. I've done all my research, but how it converges into a story is actually up to Lord Shiva. I don't control it. It just emerges in a particular way.
Wow. And speaking of the Indic Chronicles, if you could, help me understand the thought process behind this series or the Indic Chronicles as to how it came up as a thought process for you, that you involve different writers to also, write the book alongside with you, or probably, they do a little bit of research and then you write the overall context of it. So how did the entire Indic Chronicles
So there are two things
come
on
to
life. So one, the Indic Chronicles essentially covers the 1300-year period that I told you. I want through stories, showcase the great resistance by our ancestors. So all the other Indic Chronicle books will all focus on this period, the last 1300 years, when our ancestors fought these invaders.
But did you have
I'm writing it through the Writers Center. So this particular book, for example, Ram Mandir, who's a brilliant published writer, I shared my story, brief, summary, concept, and the research work that should be done with him. He would write the first draft, then Bhavna Didi also worked on it, both of them together. And then I worked on it. The project did take some time. We began it actually in 2018, 2019, for various reasons, and it's been through many changes. But I'm very happy with the book, the way it's turned out, and I will continue with the Indic Chronicles and the Immortal Writers Center as well to come out with more books that cover the stories of our ancestors.
Will you be connecting over here? Because at the Suhaildev, towards the end of the book, you have brought in Narasimha, you have brought in...
And he speaks of the assassination. So it is linked.
So I just feel that this could be like a prequel to Suhaildev.
This is, right? This can be read as a 4-year prequel.
Yeah, which is why I was...
to Suhaildev. And I reference the assassination squad in Suhaildev. And I reference King Suhaildev in the Chola Tigers. They're actually all linked. So all these, the Indic Chronicles, it'll be like the Shiva Trilogy, Ramchandra series, but it won't be a continuous story. You can read them as independent books.
Yes.
But they are linked to each other.
And the best way to read this is definitely to pick up the Suhaildev first, read the Chola Tigers thereafter, because then the emotion becomes even more larger.
Yeah.
Because the kind of, you suddenly feel that, wow, this was part of the book 1 and this is what is now shown in book 2. And I'm sure that you will have
and they're both independent.
independent, right? In its
But
own
yes,
right.
you get that much more pleasure.
I agree.
If you read Suheldev and the Chola Tigers.
And I'm a witness and reader to that, because that's what I've experienced in all your books, to be honest.
Thank you.
And I think we'll try to hit a very fun segment now, which is called Rapid Fire with Amish Tripathi.
Okay.
And we'll try to...
This is where all the controversies happen.
We'll try to pick your brains a little bit more on the personal side, on the fun side, on the writing side, as well as your book side.
Sure.
So we've got a rapid fire with Amish. It's called the Dharma Fire. Quick questions with you. Question number 1. If Shiva, Ram, Suheldev and Rajendra Chola were in a room, who's likely to win a debate?
I'm not getting into. For me, always Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva.
Always great. But no, I'm not getting into this debate at all. Completely unnecessary.
Okay. Coming to you, who's the bigger rebel in your eyes? Amish Tripathi, the author, or Shiva, the character?
No. Lord Shiva is the god of the rebels.
Right.
So those of us who are rebellious by nature,
But you've done a fantastic job of getting them.
He's the god that we look up to. And they always, and those of us who are slightly anti-elitist by nature, we tend to gravitate towards Lord Shiva. He has that quality.
Fantastic. Okay. Many say you make gods too human in your books. If you had to answer this in one sentence, what would you say to them?
I think one of the key philosophies in the Indian way, which I find so inspiring, is that the humans themselves are divine. It's just that we have not understood the divine within us. And that is what our gods actually want us to learn and aspire to. Aham Brahmasmi, that's what it means. It shouldn't be a statement of ego. It should be a statement of a journey, of focus. I need to discover the divine within.
Wow, very well said. A little bit on your books, across all your series, which scene drained you emotionally the most? Like for readers, I know for a fact which scene has drained me, especially in the Shiva Trilogy at the death of...
While writing it, the death of goddess Sati, I couldn't do anything for 2-3 days. I was crying continuously, but I had no choice. That was the way the story was. Because of a very terrible person phase in life that I was in, probably the lowest phase of my life ever in my personal life, when in Ravan, enemy of Aryavarta, when he rushes, when he suspects Vedvati has been killed, and he's those chapters when he sees her, and then he decides he's just gonna burn everything down.
Wow. Okay. And if you had to live a year as one of your characters across all your books?
Across all my books.
Oh, okay, let's look at Nandi, of course, the greatest bhakt of
I'll be seeing him all the time. What else do you want?
Fantastic.
Nothing else is needed.
Nothing else is needed. Fantastic. So that Guru Shishya also, you brought it out so well. Fantastic. Okay. Which of your books do you think will read 200 years from now?
I don't know all that. My books are a tribute to a culture that I deeply love and admire. How it lasts, Suri, that's up to the readers. Up to time.
I'm sure it will. And between Sati and Sita, your strongest heroine character, according to you?
That's very difficult to answer, but look, in Goddess Sati, you have seen what was, I think, her most magnificent scene when she fought with honor to the death, at the end. Goddess Sita's scene like that has to come in the 5th chapter. So
we'll have a small disclaimer now. Okay,
we'll have to wait.
Wow, looking forward. And which of your villains do you secretly admire in terms of their devotion or their strength or valor or courage?
I won't spoil the book for you, but in the Chola Tigers, there is a character who in the beginning appears like a villain.
Right.
And by the end, you discover, like, my God. He had a reason for what he was doing. And in fact, actually, that character wasn't supposed to have this arc. He was supposed to be a villain all the way through. And then God works on I'm writing, and something this character just keeps speaking to me. And the book was actually ready a year back. I read it and done. And then this character just no, I'm not happy with it. Because I realized if I have to put in that arc, I have to practically change the entire manuscript all over again. Because he's there in so many, and the entire story has to be. And I told Harper, I'm sorry, you've got to wait. So I actually rewrote the full thing for that character.
Wow.
Now, you can read the book and guess which character.
I'm sure that the anticipation of knowing that character will be much.
You know which character.
I know. I'm not going to be.
When you read the book, you'll guess which character it is.
Okay, and in the Indic Chronicles, if it had to be taught in schools, which I would really feel it should be in a different way. You think it should be taken to schools in the form of a reference material, if not textbook?
It's not a it's historical fiction. It's not a scholarly non-fiction book. My books are actually studied in many schools, universities already. There's some theses and PhDs on my books also already.
Right. Yeah.
Many actually. I keep getting calls for answers or this thing on it. But the fact that our history needs to be relooked at and that we understand how brave our ancestors were, that I would agree with. Doesn't have to be through my books. Can be through non-fiction scholarly books, but that has to be done.
Last couple of questions. Coffee with Lord Ram or a strategic meeting with Rajendra Chola? Which one would you be picking?
I'll sit at the feet of Lord Ram, even if there's no coffee, nothing. And I'm sure so would Emperor Rajendra Chola. He was also a great devotee of Lord Shiva. I'm a great devotee of Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva admired Lord Ram.
Right.
And his devotees, I'm sure, will as well.
So the Shiva Trilogy gave us the rebel god. Ramchandra gave us the dharmic balance. Suheldev gave us unity. And Chola Tigers, in your view, will give us?
Unity even more, but more importantly, if someone attacks us, our battle cannot just be defensive. Okay. We have to have that attitude, and this was our attitude. We've developed this pacifist, non-violent impression of ourselves the last 100 years. We would rarely go and attack others. But if someone attacked us, we won't turn the other cheek. You slap us, and I'll not slap you first. But if someone slaps us, we Indians will box back. Okay? We must have that attitude. Any enemy invades us, they have to know there'll be a price to pay. We will come back and we will get you, right? Factor this in your calculations before you attack us, right? Because if you're just a non-violent, theek hai, jo karna hai karo, hum to, no, then people will attack you more and more. They have to learn there's a cost to attacking India, and we will get you at a place of our choosing, at a time of.
And we've been saying that the government
will get you.
We did that and
we are doing that. And
yes,
things cannot be commented on officially.
Yes,
but we all know who the unknown men are in Pakistan.
Yes.
You come for us, we will get you.
We will get you, and we will get you bad.
We will get you.
Books or movies?
I put a line in this book that we are the law of karma.
Right.
You do good to us, we will do good to you. You hurt us, we will make you feel pain in ways you wouldn't think possible. We are the law of karma. Now you factor this in your calculations when you engage with us.
Fantastic. I think that would be a wrap. And it was lovely having you. A lot of, reasons why we should read this book. And all the more reason that you've come on our show, you've spoken about the different characters, which makes it very exciting for readers to pick up the book. And like you've said earlier, Suheldev and the Chola Tigers both go hand in hand, but it can be read individually, but it's best read together. So thank you so much for writing, for inspiring, and we look forward to having more of you again and again.